It's January 2018, and this video looks a lot like the last several of them, with the Christmas tree showing up. But the lighting is different, so even though the Mana Potion humidifier is still doing its thing, things are going to be just a little bit different. Off to the project area.
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
So 2017 was a year of change, what with the whole Semper Reformanda thing and whatnot. I'm calling it now that 2018 is going to be a year of rubbish. We'll get to that very, very shortly. For now, though, moo. After Christmas clearance, baby, Walmart had these things 50% off, because I guess they were stocking stuffers or something. They're basically little plushies that can flop over your furniture and whatnot, so I figured I'd pick up the cow and whatnot, because the colors will match the best, and it'll be good for keeping the dust off the computer for, well, obvious reasons, but yeah, just like that. And the thing's like lazy on top of your furniture or something, so, yeah, whatever, man, but yeah, it's just some comical thing I picked up on clearance. Now, about that rubbish I was talking about earlier. Behold, the Acer Netbook. I've referred to it as the crap book in years gone by, but these days, when it comes to names for all the computers, there's only one name that I can think of for it. Rubbish! Yeah, I know, all the Brits in the audience are cracking up right about now. The heck's an American doing going around saying rubbish? Well, it's even funnier when we say it, because it sounds more pretentious or whatnot, but rubbish! That's really the only way that I can describe this piece of junk. I mean, processor-wise, it's on par with the very first computer I ever built, except it doesn't have a good graphics whatever. The AMD APU that runs this thing is basically no longer supported, so there's no way to get graphics driver updates for it. It's horrible! Easily the slowest computer I have by leaps and bounds. It has an SSD, and it's basically a waste of an SSD. Does it even still work? I don't know. But I think one of the things that we can do this year is try and find some use for this thing. I mean, right now, with the passing of the torch with the Delosaurus and whatnot, with that Sandy Bridge machine I bought last year, this thing is more Delosaurus-y than the Delosaurus itself. So let's fire up rubbish and see what it can still do, if anything. There we go, up and running. For those who needed evidence that I called this computer rubbish officially, 3 guesses as to what it is, and judging by how the wallpaper just changed over to my Christmas candle from the stuff, well, yeah, this thing's basically, the last time I tried to seriously use this computer was last spring. I tried to update the living heck out of it, but as you can see, it is clearly a challenge. 100% CPU. This is the computer that is essentially a waste of an SSD, because you're either going to be waiting forever for the mechanical drive, or you're going to be waiting forever for the processor unbridled by a mechanical drive, or unrestricted or unheld back by a mechanical drive. So it's really an issue here. This machine is powered by an AMD C60, I believe. Why don't we just pop that open on the About This Computer thing. It's an Acer Aspire 1. The thing is, it's a late model netbook. For those of you that don't know about the whole netbook craze in the late 2000s, the netbooks were originally made, essentially what used to make a netbook was no optical drive, no moving parts. The things were made to do everything over Wi-Fi. Basically, they were the computer answer to the up-and-coming iPad at the time, as well as mobile devices in general. So the idea and their name comes from basically doing everything off of network stuff as much as humanly possible. So they were traditionally built for battery life first. Even in the Windows 7 days, which is the generation that this machine hails from, it was questionable whether you wanted to keep Windows 7 on a netbook or switch to some kind of Linux that could scale down a lot better. So that's one of the things I'm doing here, is I've still got Windows 10. I got Windows 10 on this thing, and it's a waste of a license from the free upgrades and whatnot. Here's what we have to play with here. Processor, AMD C60 APU with piece of junk Radeon graphics, dual core, old school dual core, so 2 processing cores, 1 gigahertz, 4 gigs of RAM, 64-bit operating system. I don't know if I ever wanted to upgrade the RAM in this thing. And, of course, rubbish. And I got everything on a Jay's Geek House home group and whatnot, but this thing is not going to stay a Windows machine this year. I want to experiment with lightweight operating systems, similar to what I used to do with the original Delosaurus, because Windows 7 was questionable on this thing, never mind Windows 10, and if we peek over the About This Computer thing, the processor is still slammed 100% all the time. We gotta find something more lightweight if this computer's to have any use whatsoever. Oh, and the battery's blinking red. Does that mean what I think it means? Okay, the battery still actually has something resembling a charge. Alright, so I haven't totally killed the battery in this thing in the last couple of years either. Well, that's a start. And while the computer remains tied up, I will run the aptly named Rubbish Nine-Night. This cow is pretty funny, though. Just being lazy on top of the computer, and I have a few plans. Whoa, watch your zooms, dude. Alright, I have a few plans for, well, there's also Windows updates downloading, too. So, this thing is going to be ultra slammed for who knows how long. Probably enough time for me to do the next load of laundry. So, I'm going to let this thing just do its thing, and yes, I am running it through the night to the nice Samsung screen because I didn't want to use the itty-bitty. It took like the better part of 15 minutes to get it to not shut the machine off if I close the lid, though. This thing is that slow. So yeah, I've got a nice display, and might as well use it for something. So yeah, right. Let's let this thing sit here slammed at 100% processor until everything's finally done downloading. Not going to go too crazy with the Windows 10 updates, though, since I'm looking to get rid of Windows 10 on this machine. I called it. I absolutely called it. The next load of laundry is done, and everything's still downloading from Windows Update, and the processor is still slammed. Hence the name, Rubbish.
Epic fail.
Okay, I think this is the best I'm going to be able to get in terms of not slamming the machine. This is the part where we find out exactly how much of an embarrassment this computer truly is these days. Let's run Geekbench on this thing, the CPU benchmark. Ladies and gentlemen, the embarrassment is real. Single core, 585. Multi-core, 1042. Versus the smartphone I just got last month, 674 single core. And 1787 on the multi-core.
Epic fail.
I rest my case. This computer is truly rubbish. For the first time since the original Delosaurus, we now have a computer that is slower than a smartphone.
Epic fail.
So this is the part where someone's like, dude, yeah, that computer's horrible. Put Linux on it. Linux will fix everything. Or I'll hear, make that thing into a Chromebook. Well, actually, the fun part is that if I wanted to make this thing into something resembling a Chromebook, I would have to mess around with Linux. There is an open source answer to Chrome OS, Chromium OS, and apparently from what I'm reading on it so far, you need Ubuntu in order to get it set up. So let's see how this thing handles with Ubuntu. No CD drive, though, so either I use the Blu-ray drive as an optical drive, or I bring over a thumbstick. I think a thumbstick would be the easier option. Chromium. You should have Ubuntu 14.04. I'll get the LTS version. 16.04.3 LTS. The compatibility was mostly based on how new the kernel is, so we'll grab this one just to try it out. Otherwise, we'll go back to 14 something or another. But anyways, yeah, I gotta keep those Chromium instructions handy because I've never messed with Chromium before. Plus, I want to see how regular Ubuntu works on that thing. Looks like there's a newer version of the Rufus tool for taking disk images and putting them over onto USB thumb drives. Let's grab that while we're at it. Boot menu. Boot off the USB hard disk drive. Ah, a brown screen. This is an improvement. Ubuntu, here we come. I see a live CD. Let's put Ubuntu on this thing until it boots. And see how it runs vanilla Ubuntu before we jump onto apt-get and the rest of that stuff to get Chromium installed on this thing. Okay, we now have an Ubuntu laptop, but I don't think I'm keeping it that way. I was doing some reading up on Chromium while it was installing. Now, Chromium is actually a developer's OS. I thought it was just like Chrome OS, but open source. But Chromium is actually a developer's OS that does not auto-update. It's made for people that are coding stuff, or people that would want to modify or create something fresh. If I want to use Chromium in a home environment, my best bet... speaker pop. Haven't seen that in a while. My best bet would be to use... I hope it doesn't try booting off of the... Oh, let's eliminate that possibility. Crunch! Apparently, what I would want to do is use something like Neverware, which I see in a lot of make a Chromebook out of your old laptop type videos. But either way, we've got Ubuntu going on this thing. Let's do some messing around with it while we have Ubuntu on this before we take the Neverware approach. For one thing, the whole popping speaker thing I'm not so sure about. Pretty decent, but still a little sluggish. It's quicker to start up and shut down. But if I want to mess around with Linux, I might as well just put some Kubuntu back on the Silver Bullet or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see also when we redo this what kind of scores we get from Geekbench on the old Core 2 Duo versus what we had earlier. So yeah, brown screen, boots fast, pretty decent, but it's still a little sluggish. The hardware still shows its age, and I have never really got into the whole Unity desktop thing, so, well, yeah, let's get to work on the Neverware part of this. Well, this certainly seems easier than what I've been seeing in the YouTube videos. 64-bit recommended, etc., etc., da-da-da-da-da-da. SanDisk devices are not recommended, da-da-da-da, etc. USB, etc. Okay. Let's see how this works. Okay, the thumbstick thingy has done its thing, and boo! I gotta use the Netbook's little screen? Come on! Oh, wait a minute. Spoke too soon. Actually, no I didn't. It's doing extended desktops instead of mirrored desktops by default. So I gotta use the little screen. Whatever.
Epic fail.
Okay, that was interesting. Looks like the installer's been smoothed out a bit. I was watching videos earlier where people were doing like Chromebook recovery or something along those lines in order to get this working. But it looks like there's a USB maker, and then much like an Ubuntu thing, once you're inside, or Linux in general, once you're inside the OS, then you run some kind of installer to install off of the USB onto the machine itself. So yeah, this looks interesting, but I'm not so sure, though, about Chromium in general, because there are some differences between Chromium and Chrome OS. I may just poke around with this for a bit and then switch over to a lightweight Linux distro like Lubuntu or something for this thing. Problem is, I was already planning on using Kubuntu on the Silver Bullet. Ah, decisions. Well, we're in, and we're still forced to use the little tiny netbook screen. I am noticing a performance increase, though, with the Chromium OS that is part of Neverware. This laptop used to really struggle with full-screen YouTube. So let's just blow this up a bit here. You can still see the limitation of the processor,
December 25th has come and gone.
but it does have enough oomph nowadays to actually play some full-screen YouTube. Not a bad thing, if I do say so myself. There's only one problem with this whole Chromium thing. Let's clear this. Can I stop it? Hey, where's my mouse? Hey, when I'm full screen... Oh, man. Escape. There we go. Now, how do I get the mouse back over to... Oh, it's a left-right thing. Okay, not top-down, left-right. I might as well just unplug that screen. Matter of fact, let's end the confusion right here, right now, and just go back to just one screen, because it wasn't really... Anyways, so yeah, this is an interesting setup. It's a very interesting setup. However, the big problem I have with Chromium is that I have a lot more of time spent in Android than Chrome OS. So making a hack job Chromebook like this isn't really the best option for me. If Remix OS has made any serious progress since the last time I messed with it, some kind of Android on a laptop thing would actually work a heck of a lot better than any of this. But I'll save this for another day. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.